Ladies and gentlemen, KocoSports.com proudly presents Wrestle AM. It's half wrestling show, half morning show, pretty much all BS. And of course, you got 2/3 of the Coco crew here holding it down live. Yours truly, sexiest man on all of Internet Wrestling Radio. Boom, boom, here shaking the room live from the RVA, Richmond, Virginia. And of course, they're joining me down there in the dirty South, KocoSports.com's very own bald bull, Sammy Synister. What's up, buddy?
Not much. How you been?
Been great. Been back in the gym for the first time in several months, and I'm sore, but I've never felt better in my life.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, so far I've had we're just coming off the Christmas holidays, and I had a pretty good one. How about you?
Can't complain. The wee baby Jack got a lot more cool stuff than I did, but that's okay. He got a 4-foot tall Batman robot. It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I saw your pictures up there on Facebook. It did look pretty good.
That thing was awesome. I played with that thing more than he did.
Let's see. I got some. What all did I get? I got a kit of summer sausage.
Of course, that's required, isn't it?
Yeah, I got some barbecue, like various types of barbecue sauces, some shot glasses. My daughter got me an Oscar action figure.
Ooh.
And I'm debating whether or not I should take it out of the box.
Depends on how pervy you want the internet to think you are.
Well, it's like, maybe if I have it in the box, Oscar will come through Richmond and she can autograph it for me.
Sure.
There's always that hope. But, no, it's been pretty good here. Feel blessed this year. And, for those of you out there who follow us, you know it's about time for us to do our annual Triforce Awards. That's where 3 of us. In this case, it's going to be myself, Sammy Synister, and James Legend, along with Dave Coco hosting. We're going to do our annual Triforce Awards. We're going to give away, awards for the best and the worst in professional wrestling in 2017. We've got great awards such as the Russo Award for worst storyline. My personal favorite, the WTF Award, the career that absolutely fell apart. And during that time making out awards, I started writing down stuff that I thought was noteworthy, just stuff that, was a big deal for 2017. And then, I'm going to give you a quick glance there of my list. I was like, I could do a whole show on this. And I said, well, why not? So I called up Sammy. We got together, and we're just going to talk about the best and worst, most the newsworthy events of 2017 in pro wrestling, and we're just going to talk about it. And if you like it, just hang around for tomorrow night, because we're going to give out our annual Triforce Award. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start, Sammy. I think the first thing we need to talk about are the people that we lost this year.
Fair. Do the Grammy remembrance thing.
Yep.
R.I.P. and peace and all that good stuff.
Yeah, R.I.P. man. Believe it or not, there's actually a website dedicated to this, and I guess maybe it's a good thing or a bad, but
it's a morbid thing. But I don't know if I think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, morbidly, we lost 11 people this year. Of course, we lost Tom Zink, better known as the Z-Man. He died at 59. Timothy Well, he was one half of the he was like a enhancement tag team called Well Done. He died at 55. Outlaw Ron Bass and Nicole Bass, no relation, both passed away. Rosie passed away. I don't know what his real name is, but he was back when Jerry Lawler and Doink did their little feud at I think it was a Survivor Series. One of the King's minions, King Cheesy, he passed away.
That's a strong word to say that's a wrestler, isn't it? No, I don't mean any offense.
Yeah, he was like a little person wrestler. Jimmy Superfly Snuka, he passed away, as did Ivan Koloff, George the Animal Steel, Chavo Guerrero Sr., and of course, Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan, probably the biggest name out of those, if I had to guess, or I had to pick one, but between him and Snuka.
Yeah,
and all of them are tragic. Don't let me play down any of that. All of them affected somebody, I want to think, incredibly deeply. But as a community, either Heenan or Snuka more than likely had the highest impact. I would want to say Heenan, just because of the allegations that came up towards the end of Snuka's life.
Mm-hmm. Had a lot of impact there. Heenan, of course, him and Snuka both had health issues.
They're 1,000 years old.
Yeah, I know. Chop. Actually, both of them were 73.
No, that's not that old.
Yeah, Chavo Guerrero Sr., of course, one part of just the legendary Guerrero family. George the Animal Steel, huge character, especially for his day. Um, Ivan Koloff, he was one of the one of the Soviets, back in the 80s, back when you could do that stuff and get away with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
All right, but now that's a look at the people that we lost, and I guess what I'm happy about, if you can put it that way, is that people, we don't have people dying of drug overdoses. We didn't have people doing something stupid and killing themselves. We just had people who died as either old men or just health problems, stuff beyond their control,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I know Nicole Bass had a history of medical issues, and why it's sad. I'd rather these people die as old men and women, and stuff out of their control, rather than okay, they shot up with heroin and now they're dead.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's none of them are fun, but I totally get what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, but you know what? Let's just talk about some of the other stuff here. I guess I'm going to go in really no particular order. But Sammy, you start us off. Name something that you think was a particularly newsworthy event. A little bit more on the positive side coming out of 2017.
I'm not going to pick any one news story, and this has been the case for the last several years, but I'm going to make a general statement. Despite a lot of the negativity that goes around a lot of us as professional wrestling fans right now, the year 2017 going into 18, wrestling is more popular and bigger and more visible now than it has ever been in its entire history. And there are more and more prominent and loud and proud wrestling fans that every day it feels less and less like we have to hide in the shadows. That's something you have to keep as like a dirty little secret to yourself. Like, oh, I'm a wrestling fan. You can tell people now, like, hey, I can walk down the street wearing a Bullet Club shirt, and someone's gonna walk up and give me a too sweet. It happens almost every time I wear this shirt, and that's just going to continue to grow if they keep going the way they're going. I think that's great. There's Ring of Honor, New Japan in particular, and even WWE. I mean, it is in TNA. I'm not going to throw them out. Excuse me, Impact. It's not a pariah thing to be a wrestling fan anymore, and that is a huge, huge deal for me. That means a lot to me. I don't know about you, but that's a big cool thing for me.
Yeah, it's become more of a cultural thing. In fact, there's two events right there I think you brought up, and I feel like need to be mentioned right now. Is one, the Bullet Club invasion of Monday Night Raw.
It was a big one. In hindsight, was bigger than when people were reacting when it happened, I think. Mainly because Jimmy Jacobs got fired. And I'm not going to be so naive to see that wasn't a big deal part of what made this such a big newsworthy story. But if they would have given it just a little bit more visibility, I would have think it'd been as fun as when DX invaded Nitro. But it definitely was a story, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the Elite too. I mean, the Elite. I mean, you've got all these guys. Okay, you've got guys who've never been to the WWE making names for themselves. You got somebody who was a mid-card comedy act at best, leaves, and now he's like, and referring to Cody Rhodes, he said that 2017 was his first seven-figure year. He's making more money on the indies doing what he's doing now with the Bullet Club in the Elite than he did in WWE.
I believe that. I can completely believe that.
And I mean, I can, dumbfounding.
And if you remember our last Triforce Awards, I actually gave my Wrestler of the Year award to Cody Rhodes. And it is just, I'm getting a call from my son, so I'll have to change that in just a second. But no, I can wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, and even, what's his name? Omega just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you can buy
and the Bullet Club name in general, everyone's been so scared the last couple of years. And of course, you're hardcore, annoying wrestling fans like, it's watered down and it's not as cool. It's like, who cares? And people, if anyone's going to say that the Bullet Club wasn't almost directly related to how popular New Japan's got, they're an absolute lie.
Yeah, and plus you can buy Bullet Club merch in Hot Topic now, thanks to the Jackson brothers. I mean, you've catapulted the careers of Marty Scurll and Adam Page.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Being the Elite is, you know, and by the way, if you haven't checked out Being the Elite, the
It's
YouTube
so much
page,
fun.
oh my God, that is such a fun channel to watch. So many inside jokes there. Uh, and plus, remember the cease and desist? The Young Bucks found a way to make money off that.
Yep.
After the whole Jimmy Jacobs thing, you know, which here's the thing about that. I don't, you know, I think if it went to court, I think the Bucks could win because
Yep.
you cannot trademark this no more than you can trademark this, 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 this. I mean,
I'm with. Keep talking. Hold that thought. I'll be back.
yeah, you can't really keep. I mean, but and I think the way the Young Bucks handled that was just absolutely was just spot on. I actually laughed about it, you know, because they released a shirt and it was them being censored doing the too sweet gesture, and they had the too sweet on the bottom of the shirt, you know, censored out, and they called it cease and desist. And I actually, when I first saw the shirt that appeared on ProWrestlingTees.com, I actually started laughing about it, and I actually had to tell. And it was actually kind of funny because when I first saw it, I was at work, so I had to tell a non-wrestling fans like, here's the shirt. Here's why I'm laughing at it, and I had to go through explain the whole story about the Young Bucks, and then I showed him the clip where the Young Bucks super kicked the 8-year-old in the ring. To which he loved it. He laughed. And I was like, there you go. So, and also speaking of that, with New Japan in general, New Japan run their first ever U.S. show on their showing U.S. Soul. Now, this wasn't like a co-promotion with Ring of Honor. This wasn't like a couple of their guys on an indie show. No, this was New Japan Pro Wrestling in California.
Was tremendously big deal. Even though we kind of ragged on the event a little bit for the commentating team and for the awful Ring of Honor equipment that they used. That was a monumental night, or a couple nights, I'll say.
Yeah, the equipment, I can probably get around that. It's just the commentary. There was no excuse for that. It was awful. Like Jim Ross and Josh Barnett, I guess they're good if they're scripted. If you can do cuts, you know, you can edit stuff. You can, okay, let's do that again. But their live, it was like Ross was completely lost. It was just, and then you could tell he was lost and he was uncomfortable because he was trying to make WWE references and here's an obscure wrestler from 1960. And I was just like, dude, shut the fuck up and call the goddamn match.
Well, even the Bucks went up, they yelled at
Barnett. Oh yeah, they yelled at Barnett.
Barnett, and were like, "You done burying us? You having fun?"
On night 2, yeah, they let Barnett have it. And Barnett was like, "Well, I wasn't burying." Like, fuck you, motherfucker! You're both of you being goddamn disrespectful.
Agreed. I completely agree.
And let's see here. Let's keep going about some good stuff here. Let's go. Oh, the year for tournaments. WWE, believe it or not, when they want to, they can do good pro wrestling. They did 2 good tournaments this year.
Pro wrestling 3, didn't they?
No, they did the UK tournament and they did the Mae Young Classic.
Okay, so the Cruiserweight was last year.
Yeah, Cruiserweight was last summer.
And arguably, the UK was probably the best of the 3. I think most people would be in agreement with that. But both tournaments were great, with the exception of the women's. I did love the women's tournament, but that finale was absolute trash.
Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about that, but hey, we're getting Shayna Baszler out of it.
Yay! We get that mannish ogre that can't wrestle. I'm so excited. Well, I would rather watch someone put dried beans into a paper bag.
And here's another thing. We also saw Kairi Sane for the first time. Which
on American soil, as far as I know.
Yeah, that elbow drop, my God, that's awesome. Abby Lath, Candice LeRae, even some of the ladies that were knocked out first, like Jazzy Gabbert, Tessa Blanchard, did absolutely amazing in that tournament. I think
the best match of the entire tournament was Abby Lath and Jazzy Gabbert. I think that was my absolute favorite match.
Oh, that was a great one. And one of the God, hang on, it's going to take me a second. Oh, Mercedes Martinez. I mean, I'd seen her on the Indies before. This is the first national exposure she's gotten, and I think that's been long overdue. She's a very
Agreed.
phenomenal women's wrestler.
And I guess that's what upset me so much at the end of the day about the Mae Young Classic is that they had Abby Leif, Martinez, because I can't ever say her first name, and Tony Storm, who I think America has fallen in love with.
Oh, God, yeah. Her and Dakota Kai.
People loved them, but yet we're going to put Shayna Baszler in the main event just because we're trying to attach it to Ronda Rousey's name. And there isn't a soul alive that's going to convince me or most everyone else any differently. That is the only reason she was in there. She was hands down one of the least skilled in that ring with a terrible look. She could look real mean. That was about the end of her skills, but she got to be in the main event. And that put a real sour taste in my mouth with the whole event near the very end. They also, unlike with the other tournament, they did a terrible job releasing those episodes. Because they would release them like 3 at a time, and you had to look, and just how they had them on their website, you had to look at what the newest one was before you go down the old one, and the newest one would give you spoilers for the one you had to go watch. And that drove me up the wall. Like I ended up watching it all, but the last 3 episodes I ignored because I knew who was going to win them all, and that annoyed me to no end.
Agreed. And UK tournament. I mean, there's a lot of guys now that are, Progress, Rev Pro, that are now, household names because of that. I mean, first of all, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Wolfgang, got all kind. I mean, just these guys. And plus, here's another thing. That was also the debut of Nigel McGuinness with WWE. And it pains me to say this, but Michael Cole did a good job calling that.
He did great. I think in general, and this is going to get me a lot of flack, I think this entire year, when he has left his devices and can just call what's going on in the ring, he showed that he is exceptionally good at his job. He did great in that tournament. There's several other matches I think he called great. The guy can call a match when he's having to just call a match and isn't having to do the WWE commentary.
Agreed. And WWE, and it just boggles my mind. I watch NXT. I watch these tournaments that they do, and I'm like, how the hell is this not translating onto Raw and SmackDown? What is that one factor that is just getting? It's like WWE's getting in their own way.
I think it's the schedule, and this is just me just throwing it up there that the schedule just burns people out. Doing this over and over, and maybe I'm wrong. I could very well be wrong, but if you had to ask me, I think that's what's killing a lot of people is the schedule these guys have to work off of.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
And here's some notable title holders here. First of all, I want to give a big notable shout out to both Zack Sabre Jr. and Johnny Mundo.
Okay. Why those two?
Well, I'm gonna get to a couple more, but these two, because Zack Sabre Jr. held 3 championships at one time. He held the British Heavyweight Championship. I think that was Rev Pros.
Rev Pro, either Rev Pro or What Culture usually.
Yeah, it was Rev Pros. He held Gorilla Championship Wrestling's top championship and Evolve's championship. He actually unseated Timothy Thatcher. He ended I think Thatcher had a reign of like 600 some odd days. He ended that, and then he goes into New Japan after he beat Shibata in the spring. It was in the spring, and he's walking around 3 championships at one time.
Well, the Bucks had 3 championships at one time, didn't they? They had
yes, tag team
PWG, IWGP, and ROH.
Yes, they have. That's been done the fast. The first time I've ever seen it done at the heavyweight level. Mm-hmm. And Mundo did virtually the exact same thing. He held the Lucha Underground Championship, but then he went into Mexico down in AAA, and he main evented, and he held all 3 of their major championships. He held the AAA Mega Championship, the Latin American Championship, and the Cruiserweight Championship for AAA all at the same time.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you brought that up, and this is something, especially for us, I know it was a big deal for multiple reasons, but I do want to talk about Triple Mania. We'll say 3 main reasons. I'm going to say 2, we'll say 3. A, that show was a disaster. It was so bad.
It was horrible.
so bad. And I'm a huge Lucha Libre fan, and I had trouble getting through a lot of those matches. They were bad. So bad. The second one being that the main event of that show actually was really, really good. Johnny Mundo was fantastic. Or not, it wasn't the main event. The main event was good. The Johnny Mundo match was fantastic. But speaking of the main event, that's the story that really came out of it for people that have been long-time fans of Lucha Libre and knew the name. Dr. Wagner losing his mask is a huge, huge news story. It did not hit the States or Japan nearly as hard as it did the wrestling community, us and down, I'll say, geographically speaking. But, I mean, you can go look at Hispanic and Mexican news markets, and it was everywhere. That was a massive, massive story, and one that quite honestly shocked me for a couple of reasons. I mean, I think Dr. Wagner's been wrestling since I was since I was inside of my father still. He's been wrestling for 10,000 years. And it really surprised me that he lost it, not because, that happens to all your great luchadors. It's, you go off looking up at the lights, and I completely respect that. And maybe it's just a cultural thing, but I do not understand the appeal of Psycho Clown at all. And maybe that's something I'm just losing.
Maybe that's something we'd have to watch a lot of AAA in the Psycho Circus just to get. I know clowns are like a big cultural thing in Mexico. I don't know what the appeal of him is. There's some things coming out of there that I think a lot of people didn't pay attention to. Was one, I heard the story, and I don't know how true this is, that in the equivalent of U.S. dollars, I heard Dr. Wagner Jr. got paid like $250,000 to lose the mask.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of cash.
And that's probably just for that match, let alone what he was making working down in Mexico and working indies and Lucha Underground. He probably had a 7-figure year last year.
Yeah, and plus when he took off his mask, did he just not do you be like, God, that guy looks almost like my dad?
He looks like every Vietnam vet. like that guy you don't mess with. Like, he looked nothing like I expected him to look like, but when I looked at him, like, oh yeah, that's totally Dr. Wagner. Like, that's exactly what he should look like. And
the other thing is, and nobody really touched on this because I don't think people understand how big of a deal this was. Psycho Clown, his brother is Maximo from CMLL, and he was there in the ring congratulating when everything was. That would be like when Bret Hart won the WCW championship, that his brother Owen would was there in the arena, went in the ring and picked him up on his shoulders. That's the equivalent of that because.
Did not know that.
Yeah, Maximo is his. I mean, oh yeah, I forgot who their dad is.
Who knows?
But Maximo and Psycho Clown are brothers, and so you've got a CMLL talent in the ring in AAA with the AAA, at the main event of Triple Mania.
No. To go back part of the dark side of Triple Mania for the States. Arguably the biggest story that came out was Sexy Star's shooting on Rosemary. That was shitty.
That was shitty.
I have never seen, and I know especially me and you, really liked Sexy Star. We were a big fan. And that story alone made me go, wow, she's a real piece of shit.
And
she got in trouble again, didn't she? For shooting on somebody.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, you may be right. Not to my knowledge. The thing that does not make any sense to me is if she was going to shoot, I don't understand why she picked Rosemary out of that whole group, because I thought she was going to, because who was that other chick in there? I know there was Ayako Hamada, and there was one other chick, I cannot remember her name.
Was it Comanche?
Was it Lady Apache?
Maybe a Lady Apache. I can't remember. But I don't know. There's 10,000 wrestlers in AAA.
No, it wasn't her, but there was the other chick in there was a friend of Taya, and the whole thing was, remember, Taya got screwed out of that Arena's championship because Vampiro told Johnny Mundo, her Taya's fiance, hey, bring the championship down here, we need to do like a little photo shoot. So he brought it down there, and then Vampiro gets it and goes, okay, guess what, Sexy Star didn't make a title defense, so I'm stripping her of the title. And Taya's like, dude, you didn't even fucking book me, what the fuck are you talking about? So she fucking left, and And I would understand because one of those girls was friends with Ty, and she genuinely, hated Sexy Star for all that shit for basically getting handed that title. And if she would have shot on her, that would have made sense. But Rosemary had absolutely nothing to do with it. She was just an Impact chick, just down there with the Impact crew. And just why she decided, I mean, I can understand maybe she got stiffed and she was in a bad mood. But to me, it's like, okay, if you're going to do that, why not take it out on the person who did it to you? Why are you taking it out on this person? It has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Regardless of who she did it on is, to me, and I get your point you're making, I totally understand. Mm-hmm. To me, it's, regardless of who she did that on, that is a level of unprofessionalism that is unbelievable to me. That would be the equivalent of me going into work and then telling one of my customers, you know what, fuck you and get out of my store with no causation. That is, you expect that level of professionalism to come out of your employees because you're putting someone else's health and safety in your hands, and you're going to play with that because you want to be fickle.
Well, I hope she's happy because she essentially got blackballed in the United States.
Yeah, they turned on her real quick, so I don't expect to see anything, if very, very, very little, out of her going into a Lucha Underground Season 4, which was another big story that came out of this that everyone was really worried. And there's still some cause to pause, but we are at least getting Lucha Underground Season 4, which makes me super, super happy. And it was, Johnny Mundo. I loved that intro that gave, that little promo he cut to give the teaser for Season 4. But there's still some questions. Pentagon isn't with AAA anymore, and he is the holder of the Lucha Underground belt. How are they going to address that? My guess is that that's one of the reasons they changed his name to Pentagon Dark, so that they can trademark that name and still keep him as their guy. Also, you have no idea how hard I marked out when I finally got to see Pentagon Jr. win the belt. I lost my mind. I was so happy.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Let's do one more. I'm going to do like another downer story because I want to start talking a bit more positive stuff. But another noteworthy thing is something that's just kind of developed. More and more information is coming as the years going on. But Yoshihiro Takayama probably may never walk again. Got paralyzed in a match at Pro Wrestling Noah. And some of you are wondering, who's Yoshihiro Takayama? He is only one of two men to ever hold the AAA, or not AAA, the All Japan Triple Crown Championship, the New Japan IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and the Pro Wrestling Noah GHC Championship. All three major titles in Japan. He's one of only two people who's ever done that. And turns out it was at a wrestling match for DDT back in May. He did a sunset flip, botched it. From what I've heard, came down on his head. We didn't start learning until September that that this was really serious, and he's paralyzed from the shoulders down. He may never walk again, and that's just.
No, I was not aware of that story.
And you can also, he's also famous because he went into mixed martial arts. Now, granted, he lost every match that he was in. I think, save for one, but that was kind of disputed. But he took on Don Fry. And it was one of the damnedest matches because Takayama could really absorb some punishment. But let me backtrack here. I don't think it was fair, about his record in MMA, because he was put in some unfair situations. He was put against champions. And you're talking about being main event because he was a high profile guy because he was already known in pro wrestling. So yeah, I mean that would be like me, turn around and fighting, Floyd Money Mayweather. Let's just say I'm internet famous or whatever, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to go into boxing, and they go, okay, well here's we're going to put you in a match, first match against Floyd Money Mayweather. What the fuck? Same thing happened with Takayama. So hopefully, I wish him a speedy recovery. Believe it or not, Minoru Suzuki is one of the people leading the cost to a fundraiser. They're trying to help, get money so that way they can support the family as they support him.
You mean that stupid looking bastard that everyone tells me I'm a psychopath for saying looks like a stupid bastard?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that to Suzuki's face.
I'll go tell him to his face. He's Japanese. He can't understand me.
You better hope.
You dumb looking. Me have beard. Didn't he get a hair versus hair match in WrestleMania?
Yeah, he's a hair versus hair at Wrestle Kingdom 12 on January the 4th.
I said WrestleMania. You know what I meant.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay.
So let me ask you this, Boobs. Boobs. That's your new name. You're Boobs. Let me ask you this, Boobs. Without giving too much away, when we do our Triforce Awards, what do you think overall was the biggest story to come out of professional wrestling this year? It doesn't have to be like one moment, but in general, what do you think it might have been?
That's a good question. The biggest story, I think Bobby Heenan's death was huge. I think New Japan advancing to the United States was huge. I think another thing, the NWA has been redone.
Actually, the president, if not the owner and CEO, is Billy Corrigan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Which is cool. You know, he showed the world that he wasn't somebody that just wanted to get into the wrestling game. That's something he enjoys. He is a true lover of professional wrestling and wants it to be the best it can possibly be. Unfortunately, Impact really screwed him out of the ability to be able to do that. So I really wish him the best of luck with NWA and hope that product can be amazing. The more competition there is in wrestling, the better wrestling gets.
Yeah, you actually had Tim Storm got his championship reign snapped actually a few weeks ago. He was beaten by Nick Aldis, the former Magnus, in a CZW show. And
God, I hate CZW.
Yeah, and say what you want to about Tim Storm. I've met the guy before. I met him down in Texas back when he was a professional championship wrestling. And I'm going to say this, he's a nice guy. He is a class act. I do not have one bad thing to say about him. I'm glad he got that opportunity. He is a bit older. He's in his mid 40s now. And he had one hell of a reign. He beat Jax Dane for the championship, I think, last November, right around Thanksgiving. And he carried that championship for a year. And I just hope with Billy Corgan at the helm, maybe the NWA can become relevant again. Because to be honest, I know, and I know I usually get some hate for this when I know Dave did when he said it, but NWA has just been pretty much irrelevant.
I don't know why anybody would argue with you on that. There's people that want it to be relevant, and there's the reality of, if you ask people like, so what do you think about NWA over the last 5 years? They're going to go, huh?
Well, the last time I really felt like it was somewhat relevant, was when TNA had the championship. Because at least it was seen on TV. It was being defended regularly. You had a regular champion. But before and after that, it was irrelevant. And people are going to go, well, it goes back to 19, whatever, with George Hackenschmidt, that's fine. And when you start talking about the NWA Heavyweight Championship, somebody's automatically going to say, well, they're going to talk about Ric Flair. They're going to talk about Dusty Rhodes. They're going to talk about Harley Race. They'll talk about Barry Windham. They'll talk about, but when's the last time you're going to talk about Cohagas, Scrap Iron Adam Pierce, Colt Cabana, Rob Conway? They don't bring those names up. They always go back to the guys back in the 70s.
Yep. And that was its heyday, and it was arguably the largest thing at the time. But as far as currently in the wrestling market, it really is nothing. I mean, it quite literally is.
Because if you ask me, the NWA is nothing but a scam.
How so?
Because, well, you have to pay your dues to be in the NWA. And just because you're in the NWA, the only thing that you're guaranteed is that the champion is going to come through your territory. And then you'll have whatever, like a match or a set of matches usually with your top guy. And not only do you have to pay for that, but you also have to give the champ a percentage of the gate. And I'm like, okay, so why are we part of what are we, because basically the NWA uses the territories to promote the NWA rather than the NWA promoting the territories.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you're the NWA, why don't you do this? To make it more competitive, why not go out into the territories? And that's where you can do your TV tapings. You can tape for the NWA, and you can feature, whoever you want on your roster, and maybe some of the rosters of the territories. And then if say somebody gets really good, you can promote them up to the main touring roster. Or if they get old or bad, or just say they get stale.
That's a great idea in theory, but let's not lie to ourselves. The NWA will never be what it was ever again. And I hope Billy Corgan does something great. Maybe he'll get a TV deal, and that'd be awesome. He's better off, like you said, partnering with the TNA and ROH, Lucha Underground, something like that. But I mean, it's reverence nowadays. It's not reality, and so and truth be told, there's hardly any reason to cover it. The only person I know that's told it in like the last 10 years is Colt Cabana. That's it.
Yeah.
And I love Colt Cabana. Reality and reverence, and right now it's reverence. I'm trying to think of some of the other big things for wrestling to me. And this one, I'm going to get a lot of slack for saying this. I'm not saying it's something I agree with, and I understand why they did it. But to me, one of the biggest stories that came out of all professional wrestling was Jinder winning the heavyweight championship. That was a mammoth story, not just because it caught everyone off guard. No one saw that coming. But because it showed that WWE is trying to get into the India market. And that was something that was really cool for me. I was like, Jinder's not my favorite by any means. And his reign lasted way, way too long and should have never beat Nakamura twice, let alone clean. But that story was massive. That if they did it just because he was Indian, but they will throw you curveballs and you'll go, oh, we've got to watch now to see what's going to happen. That was a big story. I don't know if it was the biggest story overall, but it's arguably one of the most memorable stories I have coming out of the year.
Yeah, and here's another story that I thought was actually kind of big is the Hardys versus Anthem.
That was fuck that Al.
ThatAl.com. Hashtag fuck that Al. It led to a huge battle. Everybody, I mean, dude, and that's another thing. TNA, man. Okay, when I started off, I think they were TNA. Then they were Impact. Then they were Global Force Wrestling. Then they were Global Anthem. I can't keep it straight. I can't even keep it straight anymore. But you had that.
I can't keep it straight at all. I don't know who's there. There's nobody I really care to watch outside of Johnny Mundo and maybe some of the other AAA guys and EC3. But
then out of that, you had the whole Paige sex tape / Del Rio drama. My God, this girl couldn't get out of the fucking drama, couldn't get out of the gossip sites to save her life.
Is the wrestling equivalent of a trailer park. She is just trash, and somehow I don't understand how she has a job. I genuinely do not understand. Other than they absolutely have to have people for the Women's Royal Rumble. That's the only thing I can think of.
I think it's
because she got away from the pop that I genuinely would have thought she would have got. Personally,
yeah, I think it's one they were making some kind of movie about her life. So and they used and they went into the WWE and did like a match or something for the movie. Like during there was like a dart. It would have been the equivalent of like a dart match on Raw for that. And plus, she was high profile, for good or for better or for worse, she was high profile.
Hold on. I just want to go ahead and throw a shout out in the comments to Wrestling Rantin', who I haven't got to talk to in forever. How you doing, you old bastard? I know you're not that much older than me, or maybe you are. I don't know. You could be like 67 for all I know. But too sweet me right through there. Bam. Boom. And just to throw up what he said, he did say that the NWA is an old model that doesn't work now. It worked back in the day, basically like the Mafia. And that's pretty much what we were saying. That model just doesn't work anymore. And no one cares. No one has – it's reverence, not reality. But, it is what it is. What other stories you got to cover, Booms?
Let's see here. After that, you know what? I'm going to end, at least with me, I'm going to end on a couple of high notes here. I feel like these are noteworthy championships. Is one – Christopher Daniels finally captures the Ring of Honor Championship.
I unfortunately did not get to watch that match as it happened. That really kind of sucked because I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm like a massive mark for Christopher Daniels. But I think every person that's a big fan of wrestling, more so people that kind of step out of the boundaries of WWE, especially people that are Ring of Honor fans, everyone has had like that warm, fuzzy feeling when Christopher Daniels finally got that belt, because I don't think there's a human being alive that deserved that belt more than him. That guy has put in his dues. He has bled. He has cried. He has broken himself, and he finally for a very short amount of time, got to hold that title. And I think the wrestling community as a whole really poured that love into him. And that was a big deal for me. I love seeing guys that put in the work get their due rights.
And the other, I think, notable championship reign was Eddie Edwards holds Pro Wrestling Noah's heavyweight championship, the GHC championship. He's their first ever Gaijin champion.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that, but I don't keep up with Noah, so I do apologize.
Well, I think we can. I think we can now because thanks to our friend LK over at Loudmouth Wrestling, I have got a web address that connects us to some internet magic. We can watch all this stuff. It is legal, from what I understand. It's all 100% legal. So I'll give that to you.
So, kind of closing on that, I know we got very little bit of time left. What are you looking forward for the last couple of days of the year? And what are some stories you maybe want to see develop in the next year, in 2018, for professional wrestling?
I'm anxious to see how New Japan progresses. If you can't tell by now, I'm a huge New Japan fan now.
I think we all are at this point in time. I mean, it is the second to WWE, and I don't think there's any denying that. You can't really say it's Ring of Honor anymore. It is New Japan.
Because Mark Cuban is talking about pushing New Japan. They've got another show planned for the spring. And plus, is Kenny Omega going to stay? Is Kenny Omega going to go?
Kenny Omega is going to stay. They are going to pay him outrageous amounts of money. Just, I can only imagine he's got to be making 7 figures there, right? Or really high-end 6 figures.
Kind of has to be. And plus, I'm very anxious to see if the Elite, the Bullet Club, can sell out that 10,000-seat arena in Chicago.
I think they can. I have no doubt that they can. So going into 2018, I want to see, of course, more Bullet Club. They, especially towards the latter half of the year, they started working more as a force, and that's my favorite Bullet Club, when you see them just roll in deep into places. I was really happy that Adam Page has really made a name for himself. He's something I've been super impressed with, and him, along with several other names, are some of the contenders that I have for Most Improved Wrestler of 2017. I'm not going to give any spoilers. Like I said, he's one of the many names. But going into 2018, I want to see some more faction wars, which has been something that I've really enjoyed. Some of my favorite parts of wrestling. I want to see Kenny Omega really. I mean, he's arguably easily the biggest Gaijin star that they have. But I want to see Kenny Omega become the guy of New Japan and have Okada kind of pass that belt off to him. And I want to see WWE throw some more surprises at me. I want to see some more tournaments come out of WWE, maybe a Cruiserweight Part 2 or a Women's Tournament Part 2, because the way they did the Women's Tournament, you could have one every single year, because winning it guarantees you a title shot at the NXT title, which I think is awesome. And you could do that with the Cruiserweight. You just get a chance at the Cruiserweight title as well. I think those are really great ideas. I want to see, Lord, this is going to be hard. I want to see 205 Live become a more predominant thing, if not 205 Live. And they've been doing better. I want to see the Cruiserweight. I want to see the Cruiserweights become more prevalent. And they've been doing better with that, even though I can't stand Enzo Amore as the champion. That's something I really want to see. And good Lord, I want to see the wrestling being the biggest it's ever been. I want to see more in Japan. I don't know if I told you or not. Guess who gets to go on the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling cruise next year?
Who?
This guy. Guess who is... Hey, so if you didn't see that just now, I'm really excited about that. And that was one of the stories I only get to, is I don't think it got enough. And mind you, I'm really biased because I'm going. I don't think that story got a big enough deal, because that is a huge, huge deal, not because it's a cruise with wrestling, but it's putting professional wrestling into other facets of society, which I think is a big deal. And I want to see more and more eyes on wrestling and less of that stigma attached to it. So for everyone that doesn't know, and if this is your first time seeing this is Sammy Synister Jr. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Is it about bedtime? Okay. You wave everyone by, then we're going to go to bed, okay? Okay. Go on. Yeah, we're going to go to bed. Don't you love random run-ins where they just completely surprise you? And I want to see more Pentagon Jr. I want to see Pentagon Jr. continue to be the name of Lucha Underground, and I really, really love to see him in New Japan. I know that's going to be a long shot. It's a long shot, but I want to see him get around and be that name more.
All right. Well, it looks like we got a show here. I want to tell everybody thanks. First of all, let's start thanking everybody for joining us. Like thank, of course, Wrestling Ranton. Please check out his channel.
And I'm sorry I was wrong. Apparently, Wrestling is 95. Dang, you look good for age, man. Is it the carrots? Because if it's the carrots, I'm gonna start eating more carrots.
So I want to thank Wrestling Ranton. Please check out his page. He does a lot of great stuff, better than ours. Heavy J. I'd like to thank Chauncey Bullock, Ray Mastani, Demon Rocks.
Oh, Ray Mastani's up there? The king of...
Yeah.
He's up there. I can't quite say it.
Yeah. Brody Mertz. I want to thank everybody for joining us here. Be sure to join us tomorrow night. We're going to do our annual Triforce Awards, and we're going to give away awards for the best wrestler, worst wrestler, all kinds of good stuff there.
So Wrestling Ranton gets the Comment of the Night award. I won't read it because you're going to read them in the comments. It's my absolute favorite of the night. Like Boom said, come with us tomorrow night. We'll be giving out our list of awards. It'll be the first time we've had almost the whole gang back together, if not the whole gang back together in a while. Always as going to apologize. Life gets in the way. I don't get to do this much. When I'm getting a new job, that's really going to help me be able to do this a little bit more, and I'll have a little more stable area to be able to do this. So stay with us. And as of course, it's time for sexy time with Sammy Synister. So here's what I want you to do, boys and girls. I want you to take that thing from Wrestling Ranton. Yeah, he's real sexy. He's 95. You want to be just like him. You want to know how he stays so deliciously young? He's going to get that 1985 Ric Flair Starcade wrestler shirt, and he's going to get in the bath with it. What's he going to do with that bath? You know what you're going to do. You go ahead and take it down the happy trail down. Go ahead and shove it right on around. Make it real good and nice for you.
And with that, be sure to check us out, KocoSports.com, KocoSports.com. And with that, on behalf of Sammy, Dave, and everyone else, I am over.